Hi, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me okay and is having a good Wednesday morning. Thanks for attending this webinar. In it, we'll be talking about different ways you can do data integration that allow you to do more with ArcGIS Online. So my name is Sienna Emery. I'm a server technology expert here at Safe Software, and I'm joined by my colleague, Laura. Laura, want to say hi?
Hello, good morning, everyone.
So I'm not sure how many people here are brand new to FME, but if you are brand new to FME, welcome. We're happy to have you here and happy to have you learn more about different ways to use FME. But we just wanted to have a slide that talked about why you might want to choose FME if you're already working with ArcGIS Online. The first point is FME has world-class spatial support. And by this, we mean we've really worked in the GIS world for a very long time. How long has it been, Laura? 26 years?
Yeah, I think something like that in that ballpark.
Yeah, I think we celebrated 25 last year. So I'm going to say 26. That's a great answer. So we have many, many years of experience supporting GIS data, which makes us a world-class leader in spatial support, especially in the data interoperability realm. We're also a technology partner at Esri. So we work very closely with Esri and we try to keep up to date with them as much as possible. And then the third thing is FME allows you to create and automate your workflows to manage your data in ArcGIS Online. So we allow you to create custom solutions to fit your applications, and then we can automate them as well with a product called FME Server. So just to get started here, FME also powers the Data Interoperability Extension in Esri products, so you might have seen us there as well. And everything we're doing, you can also do in the Data Interoperability Extension. So first, I just wanted to start off with a poll question because there's so much you can do within FME. We just wanted to know what your experience level is like with FME, and we can kind of tailor this webinar to how much experience people have.
Awesome. Thanks, Sienna. I've just launched the poll. Sorry, maybe a little bit quickly there. And I'll just give people a little bit longer to vote, maybe another 10 seconds. Well, here we go. Votes are flying in. I will mention too, while everyone is voting, that this webinar is being recorded and everyone's going to get a copy of the video and the slides at the end. And we also have a big Q&A team online of Andrea, Aaron, and Mark. So keep them busy, chat in your questions in that control panel. And with that, I'm going to close this poll and share the results.
So
Okay.
we do, yeah, a widespread.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, we'll start off slow with our demos then, and we'll dive into some of the more complex scenarios as well. So hopefully there'll be a little bit for everyone for this today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I lost my slides. There we go. Can everyone see my slides again?
Yeah,
They're
looks
back.
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So first, let's talk about how we connect with ArcGIS Online. So we have a standard reader and writer that allows you to read in data from ArcGIS Online and write it out. You can kind of think of that as importing or exporting. So you're bringing data in to work within the FME realm, and you can also write it out. To use both of those components, you do need an ArcGIS Online web connection. So this creates an OAuth 2 connection to ArcGIS Online to allow you to access your data. This is a secure connection, and all you need to do to set it up is enter in your username and your password. The final thing we have, which is brand new, is this ArcGIS Online connector. Want to touch on that a bit, Laura?
Yeah, so that's a transformer that we just released, I think in the last month or so. So this is one that's available on the FME Hub, so you can download it from that website or directly within Workbench. So I'll show you some of the options for getting access to that. And that transformer lets you kind of work with content or files that you've uploaded into ArcGIS Online. So we'll take a look into some of the options that are available with that one. Actually, one more thing I'll mention, actually, if we go back to that last slide. For this webinar, yeah, thanks, Sienna. We're talking about ArcGIS Online, but we do also connect to ArcGIS Portal. So if you work with that as well, we do have the ArcGIS Portal feature service reader and writer, as well as an ArcGIS Portal web connection that you can use to connect to your on-premises portal configuration. The ArcGIS Online connector only works with online for now, but we are working on adding support for Portal with that one as well. So just something to keep in mind.
Okay, great. So throughout the agenda, we'll be talking on these 6 different points. Just so you know, there's so much you can do within FME. So there's only 6 different points we'll be discussing in this webinar, but if we don't cover something, feel free to chat it out and we can talk about it within the questions period. So basically, Laura and I had a really hard time coming up with the right content for this webinar because there's so much you can do. And if we do miss something, just let us know and we'd be happy to help you with that later. So the first thing we wanted to talk about is integrating data from multiple sources. These sources can be compatible with ArcGIS Online and they can not be compatible with ArcGIS Online. It doesn't really matter. We work with data all the same. So FME was really made to allow users to read in different data sets, join them, transform them to produce the best data possible. So the data might look a little different depending on what department you're working in, but we can handle it all and transform it all and write it out to the best fit for purpose application. So data interoperability is a big problem that we've talked about a lot over the years. And if you're brand new to FME, it's definitely a good solution for that. So you can take in all this data, meld it in the best way possible for your intended audience, and then write it out to different applications. And the one that we'll be talking about here mainly is ArcGIS Online. So the first thing I wanted to do is start off with a quick demo. So I'm going to go to the results first and then work backwards. What this is a web map with points on it. And these points contain different addresses of artwork across the Vancouver area. One thing I wanted to point out here is this attribute, the full name attribute. So this contains the artist's first and last name. If there's multiple artists, they're just separated by a comma here. And I'll show you what the original data set looked like, and we'll work from there. So this is what my workspace looked like. I've already ran it. So all my data is cached here, and I can go through and click around and show you exactly how the data changed throughout this process. On the left-hand side, I have 2 separate readers. The first is reading in a shapefile, and the second is reading in a CSV file. To add a reader to the canvas, just click on the white space and then type in the reader you would like. So in the case of the shapefile, I would add the shapefile reader. After reading in your data, you can inspect it and see what it looks like. So I wanted to show you what the artist column originally said. So I'm just going to scroll over and show you what it originally looked like. So here with the artist column, I can see I have 2 numbers separated by a semicolon. So that's not very user-friendly, so I had to combine it with another data set to get the artist names, and then combine that again so we could see the artist names in this artist column. My second data set was this CSV reader. You can see I had the artist's first and last names in 2 separate columns, so I had to combine those together as well. I used an attribute manager to do this. In the attribute manager, I also removed a bunch of values I didn't feel like I needed. So in the attribute manager, that's where you can handle all of your attributes. and you can either rename them or you can give them a new value, and you can remove them as well. I did the same thing with this shapefile data set. So I read it in and I wanted to rename some of them. Because it came from a shapefile, there is a character limit. So I wanted to make sure that my names were coming across okay. The next thing I did was I used the bulk attribute renamer. The bulk attribute renamer lets you rename a bunch of attributes at once according to whatever rules you'd like to set. So here I wanted to change the case. If you could see, my original data set had a lot of lowercase values. I wanted these to be uppercase, so I used the bulk attribute renamer. The next thing I did is I wanted to split up these artists. So each artist would be on a different row. To do that, I used an attribute splitter and then a list exploder. So you can see my attributes went from 615 to 743. That's because even for the same art piece, it would now have 2 rows in my data set, one for each artist. I combine these together. You can see I lost 3 here, and upon inspection, I can see I lost them because there were no artists involved, or at least they weren't listed. So I didn't want to include those in my data set anyway, so I thought I'd leave them out. After combining them together, I needed to aggregate them to get back to my what was 615, but now with those -3 is 612 rows, so I had to aggregate them together. While aggregating them, I wanted to create this full name attribute and use a separator character, the comma, to separate my different full names. So I'll see if I can find one easily. Full name is the first attribute. Let's see, here's one. So now my full names are separated by a comma. In the end, I decided to remove more attributes that I felt I didn't need. So I used the attribute manager again. And then I used the tester to see whether the sculpture or the mural was still in place. And I can show a new feature in the testers. This is new to 2020.1 that allows you to use cached values. So you could run it up to this point and use cache values to determine what values you have in your data set. So in my data set, I have in place, removed, or under review. I only wanted to write out this data if it was in place. So I just selected that. And then I wrote that out to a feature service. And I'll show you how this is set up. So again, when we're adding anything to the canvas, you just click on it and then type in what you want. Here I added an ArcGIS Online writer, double-clicked on it, and I selected my parameters. The first thing I selected was a web connection. I have mine already set up, but if you don't, that's okay. Just click on web connection and you can create a brand new one. It'll just bring you to this page where you enter in your username and your password. And then I was creating a new feature service, but here you could select a feature service as well. So then in the end, this is what my data set looked like. And from here, you can do other things in ArcGIS Online to make it beautiful. FMEs just used to get the data in. So the second thing we wanted to talk about was migrating data into ArcGIS Online. So there's several reasons why FME would be a good choice if you're trying to bulk migrate data into ArcGIS Online. And this is something that comes up a lot in our conversations. Recently, I was just talking to someone who wanted to migrate a bunch of access files into ArcGIS Online. And these are the things I would suggest if that's what you're trying to do. So the first is dynamic feature reading and writing. So you're not tied to schemas, and I'll show you this in a little bit, but basically you can write out features dynamically and not have that set schema if you don't want it. The second thing is batch processing. So this would be reading in a bunch of files and then processing each file independently. And the third is automations in FME server. You can set up something like a directory watch, dump a bunch of files into a directory, and then FME server will process each file. So I'll go over and show you what dynamic reading and writing looks like. So this, of course, is a very simple example. There's so much more you could do. We could have a whole webinar on how to dynamic read and write things and just the different setups you could have. But
Yeah, we do have oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Laura. No, go ahead.
Not to worry. Yeah, we do have a tutorial series online that talks about this as well. So if you want to get more details about how this dynamic reading and writing works and the different configurations, that's a really good resource. So just a side note. Sorry, Sienna.
Yeah. No, of course. And it is linked in the slides too. So if you are curious, just let me know. So in this case, I have a MyTab info file that I'm writing out dynamically to ArcGIS Online. I'll show you how to add that reader. So this is the MyTab info file. I choose the tab file to read it in. And then here I've selected a single merged feature type. So normally when you create a workflow, you can have individual feature types. These feature types are like layers. When you have a single merged feature type, that ensures, sorry, excuse me. Sorry about that. So that ensures that even if you're reading in multiple layers, it's always going to come through the single merged feature type. So it's always going to come through that one port. And the next thing I did here is I added a dynamic writer. And to do that, I added my ArcGIS Online writer as normal. So set up my parameters here. But I use this dynamic advanced tab. So if you would like to do this, I'd recommend reading those tutorials. And then all you have to do is connect them together. You can open this up. So right now it's going to try pulling schemas from the two different readers I have. But you can set it up to pull the schema from the original reader. And my layer name will automatically be set by this attribute called FME feature type, which again would be like the layers. So in this case, my file was called parks. That's the only layer I have. If I rerun this workspace, it's a little confusing because I have both in there right now. But my final data set in ArcGIS Online will be called parks within the feature service I created. And that's because it's set here like that. So you could do this and you can combine it with batch processing. So in this case, we're using a file and path reader to read in all these paths. And then we're setting the file name and everything in the workspace runner. And then this will write out to ArcGIS Online if you set it up with something like this.
All right, yeah, so I'll just talk about point 3 here, distributing data to multiple systems. So for this particular point, I'm not going to be showing a demo, so I'll just kind of talk through some of the concepts, and we'll focus on some of the demos later on, which I think are a little bit more related to ArcGIS Online directly. So for this, I just want to mention that because FME supports so many different types of formats, you can read data from over 400 or 500 different data formats at this stage and also write out to that many different systems. You always have the option to take your data and write it out to any other systems that you'd like. So one example might be if you're taking your data from ArcGIS Online and you'd like to maybe share it out in other formats or convert it into different types of files that are compatible with other systems you'd like to use your data with, or if you'd like to take that data and share it with others in different ways. So for people who maybe don't have access to the internet when they're working with the data or anything like that, you can always take copies of that data and create other files with that. Another example we have here kind of shown in this screenshot is just the idea that you're not limited to one particular type of output when you're creating your workspaces. So here we've got 3 different outputs all within the same workspace. So here we're writing out to an ArcGIS Online feature service. We're also creating a table inside PostGIS. If you've got maybe some internal databases where you like to have all your information stored as well, you can have additional copies there too. Then you also have the option to use other types of transformers to connect with other types of services to send the data out. So in this case here, we're using an emailer transformer. So here, maybe the scenario is, whenever data comes in and is used to update your existing systems, you can send an email out to the stakeholders who'd be interested in knowing that there's been changes and that they should maybe refresh their connections or take a look and check it out and see what's going on. So along with that, like you have access to a whole bunch of standard writers. You can also connect to different web services. We've got the emailer there, which is kind of a web service by itself, but we also have transformers like the HTTP caller transformer that can let you connect to different types of APIs. So if you're working with an application that has a REST API, for example, you can send post requests and send data out there and communicate with that API, pull data in to enrich your data sources or anything that you need. We also have various FME connectors that are just kind of built-in transformation tools to let you connect to different systems. You can upload data to FTP sites. Really, the sky's the limit there. So if you know where your data needs to go, there's lots of different options to get that data where it needs to be when you need it. And just a key there is the ability to automate your workflows. So we have another product called FME Server, which lets you take workspaces that you've built with FME Desktop and publish those up to an enterprise environment. So you can use automations to run those automatically, as the name might suggest. So you can have your data refresh by itself. So you can set up a schedule, have it run once a day in the middle of the night, so all your data is ready to go for the morning. Or you can have different types of real-time systems configured, so you can have your data update as soon as new information is available or as soon as that processing needs to be triggered. So we'll get into that a little bit more in some future demos here. So that brings us into option number 4 here, being able to detect changes in your data sets. So it's kind of a key here. If you have kind of a data set that you'd like to share with others, inevitably there's going to be changes. Things happen, things get updated, new records are added, records are removed. How do you handle that easily? So one key transformer I'll highlight for this particular workflow is the change detector transformer. So this is a great one to be able to compare 2 different data sets. So with this transformer, you've got your original port here where you pass in your original data that hasn't been changed yet. And you can pass in the updated data or the revised data through the revised port. And this transformer will compare the 2 data sets and let you know which records have been updated, which ones are newly inserted, which have been removed since the original data set was created, and it'll also let you know anything that was unchanged. So a really good reference for this is a blog post by the FME evangelist, Mark Ireland, so you can do a bit of reading on that. We've also got a webinar on change detection coming up soon. So definitely if you're interested in this concept and you want to dive in really deep, highly recommend checking that out once we make that available online. So let's get into a demo now. So I'll show how change detection can work specifically when you're working with ArcGIS Online feature services. I'll just hop over into FME here. So I've just got a fairly simple workflow. Let me just show you what I'm dealing with. So I have an existing feature service online already. This feature service is keeping track of the status of playing fields within the city of Vancouver. So this is just a data set that I grabbed from the City of Vancouver's open data site, just to use for this example. Here, this has the status of all the different playing fields in the city, letting us know kind of what's closed, what's open to user discretion and all that. This is changing quite a bit, especially nowadays with all the COVID things going on. So I want to make sure this data set is kept up to date and in line with the actual information as that changes. So I'm using FME to do that. So the key with change detection is to have a copy of the original data and a copy of the updates to be able to compare those and see what has changed. So in a simple scenario, what I could simply do is just pull in the updates, delete all my original data, and then just repopulate it with just the updated information. But that's not necessarily efficient. So if I have hundreds of rows or thousands or millions of rows of data in there, it's not necessarily going to be fast to come and repopulate that every single time if only 1 or 2 records have actually been updated. So for this example, we're going to be doing kind of what I'd call incremental updates. So we're actually only going to update the records that have actually changed between the 2 different data sets. So we're being much more efficient and we're not touching anything that actually hasn't been modified since we created the original. So I'll just run up to the change detector here and just show what's going on. So at the top, I have my original ArcGIS Online feature service information. Down below, I have a data set where I'm getting my updates. So with this example, I'm actually pulling the updated information directly from the City of Vancouver's open data site. So I'm actually pointing directly to the URL to the JSON file with the playfield status. You'll see the schemas are a little different here. I've cleaned it up for my ArcGIS Online presentation. So I'm using an attribute manager just to fix that up. So make sure everything lines up and matches up with the original data here. And then I use the change detector to find what's been updated. So here I'm just using the record ID as a field to compare on. So this would be the same between the 2 different data sets. And then I'm looking at a set of attributes in here to see if any of these attributes have changed. Then I'd like to send my updates through to my ArcGIS Online feature service. And here I can see I've got 2 records that have been updated. So I can inspect that. So I can see some of my fields are closed. The change detector also has an option to create a list of all of the things that have changed. So if you want more details about exactly what record values have changed and all that, you can always use that information in your workflow. So in this case here, the closure notes changed from a null value to a note saying closed due to COVID. The weekend status is changed from user discretion to closed. I can also see a record has been deleted, so maybe a field's been taken out of commission. I modified this myself, so I don't think that's actually the case. And then we've got a couple of new records that have been inserted, so a few new things that have been added to the data sets. You can kind of see exactly what's going on. So one of the keys for this change detection or incremental updates is an additional attribute that's being added onto each of my features. So I see this attribute called FME_DB_operation. So here for my inserted records, that's set to insert. For deleted records, that is set to delete. And for updated records, it's set to update. So this attribute tells my writer exactly what to do with the features that are sent to it. So if something's tagged as an update, then that record exists in the data set and should be changed. If it's set to insert, that'll be inserted, deleted, it'll be deleted. So once we have that change detection done, we do have one final step for the ArcGIS Online writer. So this writer uses the object ID from the feature service, which is generated when the records are added to the feature service. So we actually don't have that information in our original data set. So we need to use a feature joiner in this case, just to copy the object ID for any of the updated and deleted records from the original feature service onto the updated values to make sure we have that object ID to use when we run our updates. So that's what we've done in here. And then what I can do here is just run this writer here, and that'll update our records in the existing feature service. There we go, and it looks like as demos go, I think I may have messed something up when I was testing this, but that should give the idea. So it's the basic concepts there. So you'll need to send your updates and deletes, put that object ID on each of them, and use that to update the feature service.
Okay, perfect. So now I wanted to talk about automatically updating your data sets. So what Laura showed there, she could easily push this on to FME server and then have this set up to run a schedule and automatically detect updates in her data sets. So that's something we can do within FME server very easily, but now we have another way of doing this with ArcGIS Online. So ArcGIS Online recently introduced webhooks, and I've been told by a source there that they're still kind of performance tuning these webhooks, so it's just something to be aware of. This process may change in the future, but very excited that they do have webhooks. So just before we get into it, I'll discuss a little bit about webhooks and FME. So a webhook is like a specialized URL. Normally when you load a web page, let's say you type in google.com, you'll receive data back from that web page. Well, webhook is a little different. It pushes data to a new source. If you've used REST APIs before, think of it like a post. It's going to post data to that URL. I also sometimes think about it like an email. When you sign up for like an email subscription to a company, all you have to do is enter in your email, and then every time they have something they want to share with you, they'll send you an email. It's the same thing. So you're using a URL here, and then every time there's an update in your data set, it's going to send you a message with that update, and that update often comes as JSON. Oh, went the wrong way. So yes, as I said before, these are brand new to ArcGIS Online, and using webhooks that exist within ArcGIS Online and FME, you can do really great things and pretty much instantaneously get updates to your data set. So I'll show you what this looks like. First, I'm going to go in and kick off my update first. There's nothing I like worse than when you're sitting waiting for something to happen. So I'll kick this off first. So we have a park named New Park Park. This park doesn't actually exist, but I will update its name. So it's now called Sienna's Park. All right, so that update's been in place. I have this set up now, so it will automatically send FME server a message when it's been received. And from there, I'm going to run a workspace and log the changes to this data set. So now let's go to how I set this up. So Esri should be producing a blog soon with how to set this up. But in my case, I set up this feature service and I have a webhook here. This webhook is from a cloud service we do have. And I'll go over to the cloud service now and show you how to create a webhook. So if you'd like to start something off like this yourself, you'll need to create a webhook first. To do that, you'll have to create a trigger. So in FME server, we have this page called automations. Automations are how you can automate all your workflows. For an automation to begin, you have to have a trigger. And I can select my trigger event here. So in this case, I'm going to use a webhook. Click apply. And now if I save this, after I saved it, it will automatically create a webhook for me. All I have to do with this webhook is copy and paste it into this webhook section here. And so now every time there's a change type star, so every time a change has been recorded, it's going to send a message to this webhook. I'll open my automation and kind of go through how I created this. So the first thing we're going to see here is a webhook will come in And then I can create a log to automatically log this webhook in case I am curious. So it will automatically send a message to the automation log with the results from the webhook, which is also called a payload. From there, that webhook payload will also go in, because within my automation, I can set it up to work with the webhook. I'll actually go back to this one just to show you what this looks like. So I set up a parallel one here just so I can go through and like modify these attributes with you. But I have a published parameter of my workspace that allows me to read in this webhook. If I'd like to get the webhook, all I'd have to do is select this message content here, and it should send me the JSON. And from there, I have an automations writer. What the automations writer does is, instead of writing out to a normal application like ArcGIS Online, it's going to write out to your automations, and then you can use the values from your automations later on. So in this log, I can open up the text editor and note the features that have changed. And I'm getting all that information from my workspace here and what's in that automations writer. And so this will be logged as well. So if I go back, leave page, to my webhook automations, and I view my log file, I should be able to see down at the bottom here, what happened was the webhook came in. Don't be scared by this. Basically, with this webhook, it's coming in a value that's not JSON, so it is being encoded. I created a custom transformer that's now on the hub that will decode it for you. So if you do need access to this, if this is something you'd like to do, I'll have my workspace available at the end of this, which you can go through, but I do have a custom transformer on the hub, which I believe I named ArcGIS Webhook Decoder. So that's what it looks like. We're going to decode it, get data from it, and in the end, it'll look something like this. So then you can update your destination data sets with the new values that have been written out from ArcGIS Online. Just as a side note, it will send you the full row of data, so you'll have to update all those attributes. But in comparison to reading in your full data set and doing that change detection, I believe this will be so much faster. And like I said, this process is being fine-tuned. In newer versions of FME Server, we will not encode the webhook like this, so it's easier to work with. And on the ArcGIS Online side as well, it will be fine-tuned, and I'm so excited to see where this will go.
One thing I'll also mention at this stage is that automation that Sienna's building there. So that's all built in our FME server product. If you're working with the Data Interoperability Extension, that's something you traditionally wouldn't be able to kind of make too much use of. So you wouldn't be able to publish your workflows from there up to server. But that is going to change with the 2.6 release for that one. So stay tuned for any news on that. It looks like we'll be able to integrate with FME Server directly there. So I think that's exciting. So if you're seeing something here and you don't think you'll have access to that if you're only using Data Interop, there is some hope there. Yeah, so this just gets into making data available to anyone. So this is where we start looking at this brand new transformer, the ArcGIS Online connector. So this was very recently released, but it was released as a package on the FME Hub. So this is the link to go find that if you wanted to see kind of a bit more information about that transformer. What's cool with this is because it's released as a package, it's being released kind of outside of an official FME release. So you could actually go and download that now and work with it yourself. This transformer is compatible with FME 2019 and newer. So if you do have a slightly older build, you are in luck. You can download this transformer and use it anyway. So I'll just show what that looks like on the hub. So this is one place we can come, find the transformer, see what's going on with that. Yeah, and you can get access to the different versions in that. And you can see here the build requirements. 19000 or higher. So with this transformer, this lets you kind of helps you with managing files that are hosted in ArcGIS Online. So ArcGIS Online has the ability to kind of store kind of arbitrary file types that you can upload there and provide kind of as like you could share it with the public and let people come there and download those files directly or interact with them and use them in their own workflows. So this transformer will let you upload that content, share and publish those files, take a look at, list content that's up there and download any files that are up there that you'd like to work with in your FME workflows, and also update existing files that are hosted in ArcGIS Online. So I'll do a quick demo here just to show you what this transformer looks like and how you can use it. So I'll hop over to FME for this. So for this transformer, so once it's been added, you'll see it looks like a regular transformer within FME Workbench. If you need to install it, so you can either install it directly from the hub, download that file, and then install to Workbench, or the easiest option is just to search for it in the transformer gallery or type the name on your canvas. In this case, I've already downloaded this transformer, so it's behaving as a normal one. If you haven't downloaded it yet, you'll see it has a little icon like this little green transformer icon with a download beside it, and that'll indicate that this will go out to the FME hub and download that transformer definition into your instance of Workbench, so you can work with it there. Once this transformer has been downloaded, I'll just show where that goes and how you manage that if you're ever looking for that. So because this is a package, you'll be able to manage this directly within Workbench. So you'll find that in your preferences, or if you're on a Windows, it'll be under Tools, FME Options. So I'll just bring that up. And you'll see it listed under your FME packages. I've got a few here, but you can see the ArcGIS Online connector here. So if you ever need to come here and check what version of the package you're working with, you can do that here. You can update it or even remove it if you're finished working with that. So let's get into some examples. So I'll open up the connector here just to show you what that looks like. So the first piece we have here is the authentication. So this just lets you add a web connection, put in your credentials for your ArcGIS Online account. And the second key piece here is the ability to set the request type. So there's a lot of different actions that you can take with this transformer. So the one I'm using in this example is list. So I just want to see all of the items that have been uploaded to our account over the last while, just to see what's going on in there and kind of get an idea of what data is up there. I also have options to delete existing content, download files that I've seen that are interesting that I'd like to work with. I can publish or make those kind of more public. I can share these, so I can share these with different groups within my organization or directly within my organization. I can update existing content, so if I need to make changes or swap out the file, that's a good way to do that. And I can also upload new files. So I'm using the list action here. So for my source, I can choose to list all the items that belong to my user or everything that's part of a group. And then I can select the folder I'd like to look at. This will just show the structure of all the data up there. So we've got a fair bit of stuff that's been collecting over the years. I'll just take a look at everything. And down at the bottom, I can choose to add additional attributes. So if I want more or less information about the items I'm looking at, I can choose to kind of decide what I'm curious to see. So I can run this. And that'll give me a list of everything that's up there. So we've got about, just over 300 individual items. I can see what this has pulled down for me. So I can see the file type and item type are null for a lot of these because these are folders. But down below, I can see the item types when I get to the actual files. So I have a bunch of feature services, web maps, see a zip file here with a geodatabase, shape files, you name it. So just dealing with all the different items that ArcGIS Online will support. So in this example here, I'm just using an attribute filter to split out the different file types because I'd like to manage those in different ways. So for here, I'd like to pull in all the KML collections, and I'm going to download those and read those into my workspace. Maybe I want to do some processing with that data. So I can run to here. And so in my connector here, I'm just using the download option to get the ID of the item I would like to download, and I'm putting that into a folder on my local system. So I've got that file downloaded now. And in my feature reader, I can grab the download path to where I put this file and read that in directly. So now I can actually work with that KML file directly and see exactly what's in there. So I've got some outlines for the different, I guess, neighborhoods in Vancouver. Another concept I'll show here is just the ability to upload and share files in ArcGIS Online. So this one's kind of a two-step process when you're working with a file. So first, I'm uploading a specific file. So I'm just uploading a geo-package file in this case. I can set up the title, any tags that I'd like to configure, and set the item type. So the item type here, since this file extension is unique, this geo-package one is pretty clearly a geo-package. So we'll just use the file extension for that. But if I'm uploading things maybe as a zip file, I can choose to tell kind of FME what type of file it is so that it sets all the correct configurations when it pushes it up to ArcGIS Online. So you can have a zip file with shape files or geoprocessing samples or whatever it is you want to work with. So I can run that. The second connector here is just being used to share that item that I've uploaded. So if I go into ArcGIS Online here and look at my content, I'll see my 311 call summary has been uploaded as a geo package. It's currently only shared with myself as the owner. So I could then come in here and choose to share this maybe within my organization and with some additional groups. So you see this is here showing the unique ID, but when I open the file browser, I actually have the list of groups I can choose from. So I'm choosing to share that with my test group there. And I can run that and share my data set. And so now if I refresh, I'll see that gets updated. There we go, shared with the organization and my test group. Yeah, so it's kind of the basics of that transformer. I think it provides some good additional options within FME to be able to manage your file types in ArcGIS Online. Yeah, so let's get back into the presentation here. So that was our final demo for today. So just want to talk through a few resources if you're interested in kind of diving in deeper to anything here or anything with FME in general. So there are lots of upcoming and recorded webinars out there for reference. So two of the upcoming webinars deal mainly with automations with FME server. So if you're interested in kind of getting a bit more information about how that works and the different options, those would be good webinars to check out. One for looking at enterprise integration with automations, and another for creating kind of no-code apps with FME server. In addition to that, we also have knowledge articles on the FME community, so you can always go there and take a look to see what resources we have on ArcGIS Online. It's a good place to also go and ask any questions if you have kind of specific scenarios that you're not quite sure about or that weren't covered in too much depth today. Definitely a good place to go and see what there is out there. Yeah, so just in summary, there are lots of options for being able to work with your data with ArcGIS Online and FME. So it's a great way to just create your workflows to manage your data, make it easy to get that data where it needs to be in the form that it has to have, and to be able to automate those processes to run so your data is always up to date and ready to go. Oh. So Sienna, did you want to talk about this one a little?
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. So we just have a real life example from one of our partners, Quantera. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because it is very relevant with COVID-19 and using FME to work with COVID-19 data to hopefully improve everyone's understanding. So Laura, would you mind opening up that first link?
Absolutely.
So what Quantera is doing is they're reading in data daily that's been updated from that download link. So Laura, would you mind just hovering over it?
Down here somewhere.
Yeah, the Excel one. So basically, with these links, you can go into FME Desktop, and instead of having your file source be something that lives on your computer, it can be a URL. So they're using the JSON version of this data, but this would work just as well if they're using Excel. So what they're doing is they've set up a schedule on FME server, and every single day they're going to get new data that's been posted by the ECDC. From there, they're going to combine that data with GeoJSON that just represents the different countries throughout the world. They're also going to process this data, so they're looking for things like different changes that have occurred each day. So are there more cases? Are there less daily cases? And then they've put this up on this portal, which we can click here. So this is done via a REST API call. But you could easily do this using the ArcGIS Online feature service writer as well, and have something like this. And Laura, would you mind clicking? There we go. So we can see that there are changes and all these numbers are calculated through FME server and FME desktop together. So FME server is the one that's scraping that data, pulling it each day. And then the actual workspace that's built behind the scenes is FME desktop. So just a really great example. And it's also a point here to mention that if you are using FME for COVID purposes, you can get a free license just if you tell us what you're doing with it. So if that's something you're interested in, please let us know and we'd be happy to help you out. And speaking of licenses, Laura.
Yeah, so we just wanted to quickly mention there are different licensing options available. So if FME is something that you don't have access to or you're looking to get more access for, you can always kind of check out the different options available on our safe.com/pricing page if you're interested. We have different options, a range of options from perpetual licenses to licenses for your cloud deployments and some newer options using a subscription program. Which just make it easier to kind of get access to both FME desktop and server with that. So yeah, just some benefits there of what the subscription can bring to you if you're interested. So just a lot more flexibility and like access to the full FME suite. So yeah, definitely let us know if you have any questions on that or if you're curious at all. We're definitely happy to follow up with that. Okay, so that brings us to the end of content that we have for this webinar today. So we are finishing a tiny bit early. So if anyone does have any questions or anything that's worth talking about a little bit, we're happy to do that for now. Otherwise, if you are done here, you're free to go. But yeah, we might stick around here and see if we can answer any questions live, if there's anything worth highlighting. Does anyone from the Q&A team see anything that they think would be worth talking about?
Yeah, I actually got a message earlier from Dale. He was just saying there was a question about exporting ArcGIS Online to KML. So we can absolutely do that. The export would be fine, but the styling would have to be done with the KML styler. We don't automatically find styles in ArcGIS Online that can carry through. So just something that's good to know if anyone's working with KML and ArcGIS Online.
Great.
Hey, Sienna and Laura.
Hey.
It's just Andrea here. Just something that many people were asking is if many of these workflows can be done for ArcGIS Portal.
Okay, yeah, we did briefly touch on that a little earlier, but it was pretty quick. But yes, we do have the ArcGIS Portal feature service, reader and writer, and ArcGIS Portal web connections. So pretty much everything that we did today could be done with Portal. That ArcGIS Online connector transformer doesn't connect to Portal yet, but we're working on it. So we'll be adding that fairly soon. So stay tuned there. And that, again, that update, since it's updating a connector, you won't need to actually upgrade your FME server to access that.
Yeah, anything that comes out on FME Hub will be available for multiple versions, and then you don't have to upgrade whatever you're working with to be able to use it. You should just see If you have something with a connector already existing in it, you should just see the option to update it.
Mm-hmm.
I just got
Thanks, guys.
Oh, sorry. I just got
No,
another question here. Can we create a new feature service? So you can create a new feature service in FME. All you'd have to do is just type in the name of the feature service instead of selecting one from a pre-existing list. And that's all done in the ArcGIS Online writer.
Mm-hmm. I guess we got time for another question or two. If there's anything else there I would want to talk about.
There were quite a few questions about whether or not we're able to share out the workspaces after. What do you guys think? Are most of the demos you've shown available to share?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So that's going to be included then. Everyone's going to get an email with a link to the recording and slides. And when you click on the recording, it'll take you to a new page, and there is a box on that page that lets you download the workspaces. So that's where everyone can find them. I also wanted to mention, or do you guys want to talk to, sometimes people have questions after the fact and they're like, oh shoot, I should have asked that on the webinar, and now what should I do? So where is the best place for people to reach you if they go away and then have questions?
So there's lots of different ways to reach us. If you think it's going to be a simple question that doesn't take much digging, our live chat option is definitely the best way to go. It's available between 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. every day with an hour break for lunch, and you can talk to one of us on there. If you think it's going to be a more in-depth question, you can either create a post on the FME community, or you can create a case with it. If it's not so much a how-to, but just like an issue you're running into it, then a case is the best way to go. Have any other thoughts on that, Laura?
Yeah, I think that covers it. Yeah, the community is definitely a great place to be able to post your questions because you'll be able to access other FME experts outside of just me and Sienna. So there's a lot of really smart people out there that have some really good creative solutions for different problems. So it's definitely a great place to get information.
Yeah, whenever I run into something where I'm creating a workspace for a demo, I'm not quite sure what to do, the community is definitely my first step.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Also, I'll chat out as well. The community is getting an update. We're revamping the community and adding a lot of new and exciting features. I actually just chatted with Brian and Mark about it. They have a webinar upcoming to show it off. So I'll chat out the link for that. It's a really great resource. So if you want to be one of the first to see what's upcoming and how the new community can really expedite your FME learning, definitely check out this webinar. I think with that, it looks like Mark, Andrea, Aaron, you guys did an amazing job answering a lot of questions. There were some really great ones coming in. So I think we're probably good to close it down. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, so like if there are any questions there that we've missed or anything like that, we'll definitely follow up after the webinar and make sure we get you the information you need. But yeah, well, thank you everyone for attending today, and thank you to the Q&A team and Stephanie there for helping organize this webinar today.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. A lot of people had some really nice comments for you too. So great job.
Awesome.
All
Thanks
right.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.